All right, thanks. Good morning, Christine. Fine, thank you.
My name is Dina Padilla. I'm here today because I want to point out about Christine Baker. She is a fraud, and then they put her on the Fraud Assessment Commission fraud unit from the Department of Insurance, and that woman should be in jail for what she's done. She went after a state auditor investigator, bullied her because that woman found fraud. She just settled her lawsuit. And so anyway, I just want to sit there. I want to oppose that Christine Baker be involved in anything. And a matter of fact, that the people here have arresting power, and that the Attorney General Becerra should be doing the prosecution for the California Department of Justice.
And why is it that Governor Brown would appoint her to be on this commission after she had to resign in disgrace from the Division of Industrial Relations for putting her daughter on a no-show job and for bullying and terrorizing workers at the Department of Industrial Relations?
You know, that's a really good question. Here he is, the governor. He's got it is the biggest state in the United States, and why he put her on for fraud. She's a fraud in many ways, and why he put her on this fraud assessment board is a question. And so he's committed fraud as far as I'm concerned. This whole thing is illegitimate for what he did by appointing her.
And Gavin Newsom also allowed her to be seated on this Fraud Assessment Commission. And Xavier Becerra, who's the Attorney General of California, has done no investigation and even tried to recover the money, the $129,000 that Juliana Baker got, who was her daughter, illegally got for a no-show job. So what do you think Xavier Becerra's responsibility is?
Well, his responsibility is to, Christine Baker should be arrested and prosecuted for fraud. I mean, just on the daughter alone with over $100,000, anybody else would be spending jail for a long, long time. So Becerra, so we have an Insurance Commissioner Lara, we have Gavin Newsom, we have Attorney General Becerra. They're all Democrats, and they all claim that they're here for democracy and for what is right and for the values of American citizens, California citizens, and they should have prosecuted her a long time ago and not appoint her to any state board. I mean, that's a fraud in of itself.
Sounds like obstruction of justice if they refuse to do their responsibility, which is to protect the people of California. Now, there's been the deregulation of workers' compensation in California, which was claimed it's a great victory by not only the insurance industry, but also the California AFL-CIO, Angie Way, who's now working for Governor Newsom, and Art Pulaski, who's head of the California AFL-CIO. What has been the effect of deregulation, 866, these bills that have supposedly made workers' comp better?
Well, what these bills have done is nothing but eviscerate injured workers' benefits to get their benefits. I mean, it's like their disabilities don't exist. They brought in the apportionment, which they could say that 50 years ago something happened and they could apportion that when there's no proof. They also denying medical care. I mean, these are just flat-out denials. There is no legitimate reason to deny, but they go and they put these policies and laws into place, and all it does is hurt millions and millions of California citizens, American citizens, that we have no medical care, no disability, and then they force us onto Social Security and Medicare. So that financial responsibility for the employer is then put onto the taxpayers. Money that we paid into the system is now being used for what the employer did. And then even then we can't get medical care or the right amount of benefits because Social Security is minuscule in comparison to what the employer would have had to pay us in the first place. So all these people, they claim they're Democrats, they claim they're there for the people, and they're not there at all. All they've done is they've hurt. As far as I'm concerned, I consider this, they have blood on their hands, and these are crimes against humanity for how many millions of people that they've hurt. Their own people that voted for them.
This is the first time.
We have a very serious concern about the control of this commission by the insurance industry. And one of the reasons we have that is because injured workers in this state of California have been harassed and bullied by employers, and these companies, who we believe this insurance commission really represents, have been able to deny them benefits and conditions. I'll give you one example. Wells Fargo Bank, where 5,500 workers were bullied and were ordered, as a matter of fact, to set up fake bank accounts in California. 900,000 fake bank accounts were set up in the state of California by Wells Fargo. And Wells Fargo coerced and harassed their employees to set up fake bank accounts, knowing that it was illegal. It's a federal law violation to set up a fake bank account. But Wells Fargo set these fake bank accounts and coerced and bullied workers to do that. That is a crime. Many of these workers who were coerced and bullied had health problems, had mental problems, and they were fired by Wells Fargo because of that harassment and bullying. And they filed complaints. They filed for workers' comp, and Wells Fargo fought them. Where was this commission? Where were the district attorneys investigating workers in California being bullied to set up fake bank accounts and the resulting damage that was doing to them, their families, and the people of California? This is a question for the district attorneys of California and this commission, because these workers were injured mentally by being coerced to commit illegal acts. And it seems there's complete silence. Why is that? Because the insurance industry really runs this commission, unfortunately. And that's why there's been no prosecution of the executives of Wells Fargo. The chief executive, John Stump, was allowed to leave with $100 million after admitting that fake bank accounts had been set up in California. So this has ramifications for the workers of California who were injured, who had health problems, and the fraud that was committed by Wells Fargo to deny them benefits, to fight them. This system is basically rigged. And that's why our position is we need to eliminate the insurance industry in healthcare. We don't want workers having to fight to get healthcare, especially when the lawyers have an unlimited budget who work for the insurance companies, and workers' comp lawyers only get paid when they get a settlement. What does that mean? It means that the lawyers are being coerced to get a settlement so they can get paid. It means the insurance companies say, you are the payment so you don't have to worry. That is really what's going on in California, and that's why injured workers are getting damaged seriously.
Dina Padilla here, and then just to touch on what Steve said is that Division of Worker Compensation is over self-insured corporations. Self-insured, and that's where you all get paid from. So the Division of Workers' Compensation, self-insured, so, I mean, look, I've been at this for a long time, since 1988. So the one thing I get to do, because I've always was a reader in school, I got really high grades, you know, high grades on analyzing. So what we found out is that these self-insured corporations are paying for you all, but they're not filing policies. So when somebody gets injured, files a claim, what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to file a policy. And what we're finding out is that the self-insured companies are not paying, are not filing policies. Now that's a giant fraud. So I would suggest somebody look into that. Because when we find out, when we go to the Department of Insurance, they say, we don't handle that. Well, that's part of what the Department of Insurance does as well, to make sure that there's policies filed. But if you're leaving it to the Division of Workers' Compensation and Christine Baker's there, what did she do? What did you do about it? Did anybody come to you about that? I'm sure they did. And I'm sure they got blown off like they always do, because that's what happens. So that's what should be investigated, is self-insured employers do not file policies. They sit there and they get to invest their money in rebates that they don't pay on the policies. That money comes back to them, which, by the way, in most states is illegal. In California, self-insured employers, they get those rebates, the dividends. So that's another fraud. And they can sit there and put it on their bottom line and tell their shareholders, we have all this extra money because we invested it through Wall Street. And you've got millions of people that are no medical care, are permanently disabled through no fault of their own because they were left without medical care, and they live on the edge, or they commit suicide, or living on the street. And we got plenty of people on the street. I think somebody should go and do a research on that. But that's what I have to say about self-insured companies. They don't file policies, and the injured worker is fought by their own employer. They are bullied, they are targeted, and they have, the last guy I just talked to had somebody come and shoot a gun through his wife's bedroom. And the police said it was a targeted hit. And only the insurance people hire thugs and goons to do that. And self-insured employers are thugs and goons. And you, Ms. Baker, you've been part of that all along.